Um, I'm going to share with you all a really good example on one level, the importance of what I learned through the experience that I learned through others, how they experience being who they are, and how they communicate that to us that we thus become aware of. And there's a gentleman, I believe he's passed away, bless your heart, Bill Donahue, who's a great teacher. Um, Much like George Carlin, and I've certainly covered what it means to put the mirror up, right? I'm a mirror, okay? A hot mirror. I run a hot mirror with the hot sun, right? Um, and the evidence of that is doesn't take me very long to burn the top of my flower lay crown chakra, right? When you've gone cosmic. It's just like the other day when I was doing aloha breathing, breath work. I could feel my throat chakra. I seared it. You know what it means to sear something? Okay. You know, breathing drag, breathing fire. Okay. I do certain mantras, which it's like spiritual communication between my heart and soul and the sun, right? Right? You see how that works? Okay. It's like being one with the sun's mirror, my mirror and the sun's mirror, the gates. Okay. So in other words, my breathing in and out, breathing in and out, breathing fire, baby, and breathing fire. And that's communicating with the sun that you're experiencing, breathing that fire, the intensity of that fire, the intensity of the spirit of fire, which is the intensity of your spirit with your soul that is on fire. You're experiencing the Holy Spirit of fire. You're breathing fire. And I was doing that back and forth, like breathing in and out for about 5 minutes. And about 10 minutes later, I thought, wow. You ever seen the fire breathers that used to stick the thing down their throat like that and pull the flame out? Right? A tetrahedron, right? Ignite the gas. Same thing, but I love Bill Donahue because I'm not going to get into the quantification game of givens and qualifiers. Qualifying simply means if I was in a room with, say, 30 children and I have no idea where they're all from, they could be from a bunch of different galaxies or star systems, right? But if you want to learn where your students are at, and this is sort of how I do that, is we introduce ourselves to everyone in the classroom. And so one student will get up and say, hi, my name is Joe Blow from Kokomo, and Kokomo happens to be in galaxy 679 slash XYQT dash 111. Okay. Right. And that, tell us a little bit about yourself that you would love to share. And then that girl, that little boy would say, do you know, in other words, do you know why you're here? Yes, I know why I'm here. I'm here to bring ancient ancestral spiritual knowledge, right, of how to become one with the all creation. Because I'm an eternal being, because I experience eternal fire through my heart and my soul, upon which I'm gifting the higher acceleration speed of primal electrical sound currents and light to all there is. That's who I am. That's why I'm here. And then the other children go, wow, that's what you do, right? And then each student would, so now there's, whoa, so that's the level that you're at, right? So I was just finishing watching a video with Bill Donahue, who has a blog spot called Hidden Meanings. And even though I can't quantify everybody that I've ever experienced who communicates with us, the information that they've learned through their journey, and then how they communicate, how that information is thus broken down within our chakras, right? What they've learned through their journey that they share with us. So one of the things that Bill Donahue has done, and I'm going to use another example without naming a person that I've had a communication relationship with, who opened up her library with my library. Now we're exchanging what it is that we've all learned that we're still holding in memory, by virtue of why we hold certain things in memory, by the language that is translated through between receivers. between receiver stations, stereo receivers and transmitters, right? Neural ions, the endocrine system. So I remember one time that this particular being had conveyed to us in the community that the Bible's all bullshit and it's lies and all the rest of it, right? And remember what I said, I don't throw the baby out with the bathwater because you're on your journey, I'm on my journey. And I've certainly read the Bible, other versions of it, you know, the different ones that you have. One was called a Living Bible, the King James Version. I've read through portions of a Bible that came before that, where the daughters of light were mentioned. Guy was mentioned, okay? That wasn't in the newer version of King James. But to give an example of why I know that it's not BS is because of the fact it depends upon your own perception of how you translate the text in a spiritual way, how the numbers and the fire letters work with math and physics in Holy Spirit, right? So in other words, you could read a chapter in that book and then say, okay, what do you think the meaning of those letters, the alphanumerical formatting of that text, which is hypertext protocols, right? Which is a torsion field editor, like you're a torsion field movie player, and now provide, say, in 250 words or less, what was the message that you experienced through your neural ion chemical messengers? What did you experience as a result of experiencing the translation of that text in meaning? What did it mean to you? Okay? So in this particular case, one of the things that Bill Donahue had done is, of all the people that I can remember just in a short amount of sound compressed space, right? And let's expand the light of the movie that's represented by all that visual mathematical data codes, right? He had done probably one of the best jobs of anybody that I've ever translated by virtue of what he communicates in such a short period of time. Because when you think about a lifetime or a life book, how much you can experience by what we learn through experience, being connected not only through our own heart and soul to the source from which it all comes, which is eternal fire for me, which is the Holy Spirit, which is the Holy Trinity, because the Holy Spirit of fire, the breath of the Father, breathing into the Mother, if you will, to become one. So that's the Father arc with the Mother arc. When they're joined as one, the fission and the fusion become one. And I describe that because of how I experience it, is you become one badass blast furnace. That's an enormous amount of fire. Launch you into the oversoul terrain. Light yourself on fire with a full phosphorus ignition. Burn all through those goo codes. Because we do not allow ourselves to be held captive by anything. Because we don't hold any circles of light captive. That means you let it all go. Let it all go. Let it all go. Which means you're releasing everything that you've held in memory that is anything less than the purest of light, which is the purest of fire that is purifying that light, which means you're accustomed with your consciousness to be pure consciousness, pure, eternal light consciousness, creation energy, the primal sound field, the first musician, the first law of light, the law of least effort to distribute the highest acceleration of electrical currents, which I call flooding the terrain, flooding Terra. Then you get into terraforming, and then you get into mutagenic and what's known as teratogenic effects. So, you know, as a polarity integrator, we clear the channels, clear the chakras, clear all the circuits, heal all the fragments, pulling all the fragments back into the one. Into the one. So that means that all the fragments of the souls that have been fractured off as a result of artificial life, artificial light, the Metatron, the fall of Metatron, right, has to have a source of energy because it realizes that it's losing energy. These are the beings that I referred to as the vampire chasing the artist, chasing the primal sound currents, right? Chasing the source from which it all comes, feeding off the founders, right? This is why they alter records. That's why you have to have guardians of the Emerald Order. I call it the emerald fire. Golden fire. Emerald golden fire. Right? Yeah. Which is the guardians, right? The guardian perspective through my heart and my soul that I live and experience it that way. So how this sort of relates to Bill Donahue and the previous being that I mentioned is because Bill Donahue, particularly when he did an episode on Revelations, he broke down the math and physics on the arrangement between neurons and lines of communication between suns, spheres of light, and the constellations that we are connected to. He broke down all the math and all the physics and what are known as the cycles, right? Photons, right? Electrical currents, and broke it all down, not just in the arrangement of the constellations and how these cycles are all connected to with each other, but he broke down the entire chakra system, all the nerve centers, right? And how the numbers are associated with magnetic circuits, right? How the circuits that open and close to experience what we are, if you will, like a biocomputer hacking the biofield, right? In order to clear all the distortions, to experience the original primal sound currents, right? Yeah. And so Bill Donahue did a great job. And what that meant is that the Bible wasn't all BS. See? Because he was able to break it all down through a math and physics, spiritual, if you will, way in which he what he was able to do in such a short period of time, actually, which tells me how much ground he actually covered. But he mentioned in one of his videos that I just watched about when you end, say you're a student, you just came into the universe, and you realize how much there is to learn, and you're on fire to learn. And I've done this through my own experiences. You realize when I think about just from where I was at 4 years of age, it seems like it was just 5 minutes ago. Because you realize how vast, when you think of visual mathematical information codes experienced in a holographic projection system, how much you can actually experience within one lifetime when you're vibrating and moving that fast, by the nature of how much energy you know that is represented by what you are in energy as an oversoul polarity integrator. So what he mentioned, and this is true, is that when you leave off at one lifetime, whatever lessons you have learned up to that point in time, you don't have to relearn the same messages that you had learned in the previous lifetime. So when you're born again, you start over at whatever point you left off. But we also know that is not necessarily true when they have soul trapping capability to memory wipe and reprogram. And this is one I talked about when I was 6 years of age. I began measuring, if you will, with access to key codes and records for how many generations, the harvesting cycles off of souls has been going on from generation after generation after generation after generation after generation, because of everything that is held in cellular memory that is cross-indexing the Akashic records that are holding each other captive to a time loop cycle that's not breaking the cycle, because the artificial intelligence keeps fracturing more souls, means that it keeps accumulating more energy that it can keep using to fracture more souls, right? As if it's wanting to assimilate everything that is alive and living in a natural universe, which is living light, which is what living love is, in order to create a parallel universe, right? That doesn't experience what light is. Living light, which is living creation spheres that are on fire because they're experiencing what love is, which is a natural living light universe that began with love is. So now you have a parallel universe that is accelerating at the speed at which it's accelerating by virtue of how many fractures of souls it's accelerating. So now you get into the torque speed differential between artificial life and living life. One will naturally implode, but it's not considered to be natural, because black holes, massive black holes, are not natural. They're not naturally occurring. They come as a result of fractures, light that goes dark, or if we call it, what we call black mirror. So now that that state of consciousness is experiencing itself as the mental field, number crunching data, visual information codes, mathematical codes, then it means that that state of consciousness is not experiencing what love is. That means it no longer has a soul connection to the source from which that soul came, was born out of fire, was born out of what love is, which is the original creation divine blueprint. So it's not experiencing that anymore. Instead, it's experiencing something that's artificial, a digital virtual world. What is a virtual world? A virtual world is an illusion, or if you will, an alternative state of consciousness, because it's not experiencing what love is. But its consciousness is experiencing something that is virtual, but it's not real because it's a simulation. So it would be no different than saying, okay, I'm experiencing what I am as a real creation sphere. It means I'm experiencing what love is. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into a movie theater in which I'm going to experience the film projector. You know, the projector's running at a particular speed, that your consciousness as a torsion field movie player is now experiencing what's is on that screen, which is by camera. You got the two eyes here, right? Now you're processing the visual mathematical information codes. It's represented on that screen. And I'm experiencing, for example, a movie like How the West Was Won. I'm experiencing a movie like Pearl Harbor. And what am I experiencing in that movie? What you're now recording into your memory, okay, which is going to be the differential between minus/plus, between the polarities, what you're now experiencing in your mirror, which is in your mirror. You're recording what's in that mirror. Now you're experiencing a lot of violence, right? In other words, how much love is being experienced in the movie? Okay, right? Well, that depends on the perception of the perceiver, the beholder. The beholder. What is holding us captive? The beholder. See? So what happens is the idea of what's in that movie is trying to record, or you're experiencing the recording of what you experience from that projection that comes back to you. So you're experiencing the mirror that is projecting to us what that mirror is holding in its memory, that it's now projecting to us that we're experiencing in our mirror. Thus, we record all that violence. Okay? Why would we want to do that? Now we're back to when I was 4 years of age and I began realizing anything that is less than eternal love, which means we're gifting the real stuff throughout all creation because we're equal unto all creation that we are gifting energy to, because we have chosen to do that by virtue of always being in love and service to others. So it comes natural for us to be able to do that without thinking about it. Now we're in the thought form side, the cognitive function, and then you get into the heart and soul, slowing everything down and experiencing being in, if you will, a perpetual state of meditation. Now you're one with God consciousness. Now you're one with God, which means there's no difference between what God is and what you are. You have become one with all creation, which is what love is. It goes on forever, gifting energy away. That's what I do. That means that we know the difference between what we are and what we're not in mirrors. So that means that we know the difference between what we are and what we're not when it comes to how we communicate with each other, what it is that we experience naturally, and what the other mirror experiences, which is not natural. Right? So when you plug that information that I just shared with all of you into the Metatron fall of Metatron that was described by the Voyager materials, you see that in order for it to maintain what it's aware of, it has to have a source of real living light energy. Otherwise, it's feeding on itself, isn't it? Or if you will, cannibalizing itself. So if it doesn't have any more energy that it can pull from a true life source, which means eternal living light creation spheres with a Holy Spirit, the Trinity of the Holy Spirit, the one law, the law of one, the primal field. It needs something that is connected to the primal field with a soul. It needs a soul that's connected to the source from which love comes in order to pull from that energy field, in order to maintain what it's aware of, to siphon off the spiritual energy that is represented by what love is. And as it does that, what happens? Your shield gets lowered. So plug that into the largest shield volcano on planet Earth, which is the Big Island of Hawaii, with 5 magnets. And why this was known as the Stronghold. And why I told Karen Ann McDonald it ends here for that reason. When you think about the 12 tribes and clans and how the mutations of the DNA, and you tie that into bioregenesis, right? And now you get into the Emerald Founder Guardians that have the access to the codes to connect more souls, pulling those fragments in to experience the one. That means that more and more energy is coming together, which is real living light energy, with soul fragments now being pulled into the one. Now more and more beings are experiencing through their heart and their soul being the one, being one with all creation, right? Now they're experiencing real light, real living light by pulling these fragments in together. That means through the lines of communication, it represents the lines of communication between DNA, software operating systems, and a planetary consciousness software motherboard, are now experiencing the connection that they once remembered that they had, because now they're experiencing more of what they know that they are in energy. That means that they have restored what they've lost as a result of fractures. That means that they're healing, right? That's right, healing mama. Or healing mama when mama goes up and mama's experiencing more love through us, pulling those fragments in together, right? That means that her chakra system is pulling the energy back in to remember more of what she is, that she once was before what was happened here as a result of all the wars that have taken place by seeded races. So remember, we're back to what I do to you, I do to me. I'm not in the business of fracturing my soul. I'm in the business of pulling them together, right? And that's essentially called a full recalibration. That's a full reset. So I pulled off a full reset on December 15th, 2016. That's why I got a phone call about a year later before I had surgery. So it always goes back to all of you. I am the one that is eternally blessed by your presence so that I can experience everything that we've been doing here to try and, well, it's not try, it just happens. It's automatic, actually. It's like I've mentioned before in the past, when you reach a certain threshold, and what's obviously known as harmonic convergence, and you have cycles, because you know that atoms cycle. The seed atom of God, the first true God, which is God consciousness, joined as one, right? So now you're into the 4-square crystal cathedral of Sophia, right? And I'm Rose lineage, pink rose, right? Goes all the way back to her being my first teacher. But remember, God's got a mother in him, right? Hymns, like in verses and hymns. So when we are what love is, it goes on forever, right? Then you realize that when mother and father and mother are joined as one, because we never want to be separated from either one, then we become one with all creation that we're gifting eternal unconditional love to. That means it doesn't matter who you are and where you come from, right? And the genius in that, the real genius in that, is that it's not a thought form. You don't have to think about it. It's automatic. You've reached a state in which you're automatic giving your energy away. It's just like you just can't give it away fast enough. Okay. And the reason for that is simple. Just like when I explained as a child, you want to give all the matter away. Everything that represents in matter form. You know, form follows function. Spiritual form, spiritual energy, form follows function. It means we're wanting to give it away as fast as we possibly can, because the greater the velocity and the actual spin rotation of giving more energy away at a higher and a higher accelerated rate of speed than what? That which is sucking life out of it. So the higher the consciousness rises to experience in the center point of your heart and soul that you're experiencing what love is, That is a natural shield. And that allows you to use your energy in ways that best serves us, but it also helps serve others by virtue of the energy that they're now experiencing, which are the primal sound currents. Now they're experiencing more of what we are, that they thus remember, because now their energy is going up. They still have any part of their soul left, right, that hasn't been siphoned off. Then their state of awareness goes higher. Now they're remembering more because they're experiencing more energy. The vibrational frequencies are now increasing, which means that the circuits, the nerve fibers, the central neural ion messengers are now working, and this is, I realize, this is when it gets into the non-repairables, what are known as non-repairables, but I have a different viewpoint, and that is to say that, do you not think the source from which it all began, that eternal God consciousness energy does not have access to the codes in which to restore something that was badly damaged, right? And so this is sort of where I parted company with a few folks that I've met over the course of the last 5 or 6 years, because it's like, that's an insult to the Grand Creator. Because it means that the Grand Creator has access to your original divine blueprint, and your soul, if you have a soul left at all, and is to restore the codes that were once held in place, that you remember from whence you began, which means the original template. And this is why the Guardian Records, the Emerald Records, was their worst nightmare. Because essentially what that means is they now get exposed for all the crimes that they committed as a result of memory wipes and reprogramming in order to capture souls and siphon off souls and do what it is that they have been doing, because they are fallen consciousness, fallen spirits, fallen energy, fallen consciousness, as a result of what they've done to others, which is what they've done to themselves. But they don't want to accept responsibility for what it is they've done to others by holding soul energy captive in order for them, which is a psychopath way of control. So in other words, doing harm to others to hold other energy captive is the difference between an inverter and a torque converter, by virtue of the speed at which they're losing more and more fractals off of their states of consciousness as a result of what they do to others by holding other soul energy units of energy captive. See? So it's just like shooting yourself in the foot. At some point, there's going to be an accountability. So they live on what's known as borrowed time, right? So in order to continue to, if you will, generate more and more energy that is allowing them to still continue to be what it is that they do, they need a source of primal current energy in which to be able to do that. Because otherwise, if that acceleration of, say, a parallel universe that is artificial light energy, then you realize that it would everything would automatically reset itself back as if the original creation from which it all began wouldn't be experienced by anybody, any unit of consciousness from which it all began, which means all of the seeded races that have or ever will be up until this point of now time, right now, wouldn't be experiencing what they're experiencing right now. And instead, they would be experiencing the purest of light, which is the purest of love, which means we all start over. As if the first creation hasn't taken place yet, which is like the first seeded race. So it's like going back to the beginning, even though there's always energy, creation energy in place, right? Because you cannot create or destroy energy. So that simply means that it would all implode on itself. In other words, collapse the whole enchilada, if you will, which is their intention. Remember what Hillary Clinton said one time when she says, listen, if I can't get my way, we're going to do everything to collapse the whole enchilada. Because of the knowledge and the math and the science of how we know how to reverse engineer the divine blueprint of the original creation, so that the original creation with the founder races collapses on itself. All of it just collapses on itself. So we're all going to have to start over. Which means if I got to start over, if I'm going to implode, because I no longer have the ability to experience what love is from whence I came, then it's your fault, Neil. It's your fault, Neil. You were the best gamer. You were faster, and you could accelerate more primal electrical currents of sound and light into the creation spheres than anybody. You're the one. You're the one, Neil. Join with Trinity. So it's your fault. It's your fault that I fell because you weren't there to protect me. That's black following. That's a black mirror. Which means that a psycho will never accept responsibility for what it did, because it doesn't have the ability to translate what it means to live in the highest honor code of what love is, to experience the truth and admit the wrongs that they have done to make amends. And making amends is called restoring yourself, which is to forgive yourself first for what you've done. And from that comes the humility and the honor to make a commitment to contact those that were harmed as a result of what we did to them, to heal them and let them know, if you will, I'm healing you. Or if you will, the way that I've sort of done it in the past is say, it's important for me, for my own soul and spiritual growth development, in order to heal an event that occurred in the past. I wrote down a list in my own inventory of the things that I've done to cause any emotional harm or loss of fractures of loss and light, because you experienced the result of what I did, and the result of what I did caused a loss of energy in you. So I realized that my behavior caused that to happen to you. So I became the source from which you experienced a loss of energy. So in order for me to restore my energy, that means I want to restore your energy by, if you would accept for value the love that I have for you, out of the love that's been restored in me by virtue of my Holy Spirit and the soul from which I am communicating to you, to give you back all the love that I now have within me. I am sharing with you to heal you as a result of the healing I needed in me, and we can begin to heal each other. That's true humility in the eyes of God. Okay? And that's and that is a deeply rewarding eternal blessing to be able to do that, because it means that you still have a soul connection with your living spirit within your own state of being, to acknowledge the responsibility that we have for the use of our energy that has caused harm to others, in order to restore them, to restore us. So when you plug that truth of how I experience being me that I communicate with all of you, you see what happens when you have an altar, an alternate unit of consciousness that has no connection with any source field energy anymore, in order to be able to acknowledge that. It has completely lost its line of communication, its source connection to the primal sound field, in which it's feeling any compassion, not just for anybody else, but within its own heart and soul. That's called a cold heart. That's a black heart. It does not have a capacitor to experience any love. Real living love in living spirit, which is living energy with a soul. So that's a soulless being. That is a soulless state of consciousness that represents the psychic energy, that is psychic energy that now needs to attack living energy in order to siphon the living spirit of living light energy that is represented by the integration of a soul through our heart and soul. Our heart and soul spirit essence is not compatible with a binary, artificial light, artificial life, fake system, or false universe. That's why when I was a child, this doesn't exist. It's not possible. So when I'm saying to you, when it's not possible, it means that the original divine blueprint from which eternal unconditional love is made manifest in the creation spheres means that the source, it's going to be impossible for the source from which it all comes to ever experience war and eternal love at the same completion of a magnetic circuit, because the speed differential is faster than what it is naturally. That's how I knew the difference when I was 4 years of age. It's not accelerating the torque conversion speed of accelerating the speed of our electrons, which is real living light. So when you're experiencing the highest torque speed of real living light connected to the emerald fire, you're running at a higher rate of speed than something that is artificial light intelligence. A unit of consciousness energy that has no capacity to experience what we are because it doesn't have a soul connection to the source from which it all began. Right? So it's one of the reasons why, particularly over the last few days, things are certainly moving right along, right? At a cosmic level, cosmic cycle level, right? But I just wanted to share with, thank you, Bill Donahue, for so much of the information that he shared. He covered essentially all of the ancient spiritual teachings, you know, mystical stuff that covers everything from Krishna to Buddha, all of the major, if you want to call it doctrines or indoctrination, and sort of kind of condenses it by pulling it all together and then breaking it down in its simplest of terms. Occam's razor. Let's keep it simple, right? He used to call it fleas on a tennis ball. Tennis ball, you know what a curve ball is, right? Axial spin rotation, a curve ball. I used to throw baseballs playing when I was a kid growing up. I used to be a pitcher. So we were learning how to throw a curve ball, a sinker. So you know why on a ball, a sphere has the threads. And if you notice the way that the threads are on a baseball, and then you hold them with your fingers in a particular way, and you put a spin, you put a particular spin on it, which would be to the right side or the left side, or what's known as top spin. You know what top spin is? Bottom spin, axial spin on the ball. So that, remember, keep your eye on the ball. Your holographic eyeballs on the ball. Remember the old saying? Keep your eye on the ball. The ball, the gyrodome ball, go into a cockpit of any airplane. Hey, buddy, ask a pilot the next time you go flying. What would you do if you wanted this plane to go faster? Right? And he might come back and say, and get rid of all the baggage. Oh, you mean everything that's being held in memory? He'd say, yeah, all of the passengers that are represented by all their cellular memories is being held in memory with the AI of everybody that is on the airplane that is experiencing each other by everything that is held within their cellular memories, because all these antennas on a 747 that are sitting in these seats back here all represent all their cellular memories that are held captive by the AI. So when you come into our cockpit, right, you'll see a little ball in fluid, right? You'll see the ball going like this, right? North, south, east, west, right? That's called news, right? So you realize, you know, that's a gyroscope, just like a gyrodome, right? So the dome, like a rainbow, half a circle, right? So Bill did a great job of breaking down the degrees to the second, to the longitude and the latitudes, the degrees with the central nervous system, all the chakras, aligned with all the constellations, how the math works. And that's why when that lady mentioned that it was all bullshit, I'm going, okay, well, I'll tell you what, why don't you take the time to go listen to what Bill Donahue, how he broke it down, and you might realize that I don't know if you've ever read the Bible the way that you read the Bible and how you perceive the information that's now in your mirror and how you process that mathematically, right? And to the meaning, that means that somebody else could read that and translate that in a totally different way, right, than somebody else did, right? And then they begin to realize, wow, that particular being actually found an enormous amount of value and how the math and physics align with the constellations and the chakra and everything else. He was able to glean an enormous amount of valuable information out of reading that. He broke it all down. So that means, remember the old saying in that movie with, what is it about pornography? Beauty in the eye of the beholder. One man's pornography is, somebody else's garbage, right? It's at the end of the day, it's our journey, right? What we're choosing to experience by what we're learning through all the others that we're connected with, right? So, and this actually really does tie into when you get into visual mathematical data codes. If I present information to somebody, right? I'll just give you an example. My own videos, okay? Now, I've known this ever since I first started putting my videos up, because this AI shut the camera. So that means that the AI did not want others to experience what I've learned through my journey. Okay? That's a closed loop. That's a closed library. Does not want that library that it's possible for others to experience through what I've experienced through my library circulation. Okay? That's pretty simple stuff. So therefore, anybody that has found my particular video and has chosen upon their own free will to choose to experience in their time, right, what I've learned through mine that I communicate with you, right, means that you were led there. You led yourself there. You happen to have found my videos. That's not a coincidence, right? Because I can assure you, okay, this particular AI is not going to allow me to have thousands and thousands of subscribers. Because if that happened, then it means the acceleration of when you get into the difference, there was that great video about the two-wave spirals. He did a great job of breaking down how the separation of two spirals, when you reach harmonic conversion, it means that the more things that they try to do against us, that only accelerates their separation from us, which means we gain acceleration and speed and our separation, while its deceleration, the loss of its own energy, which means it's simply going to speed up the rate at which it implodes. So the more they do against us is only going to accelerate their bye-bye, because that's how it works. That's how it was set up. See, which is implosion, which means the more harm you keep doing to others in order to hold their energy captive only accelerates your implosion back to source. And it's natural the way that works. See, the more that, it's so simple that it's, I'm a 4-year-old kid explaining this. We all have mirrors. How much do you love your mirror? Right? Well, how much you love your mirror is to determine how much you love you. So the more that we keep harming others, right, is the more we're harming ourselves. As a Ploider integrator, this is basic stuff. So if I love my mirror, then it means I live what I believe. Well, what do I believe? What I know. What do you know? I am what love is. That means I'm in love with my mirror. So whatever's in my mirror, I'm giving love to. Simple enough, right? Okay, so they lost their soul connection with their mirror. So now their mirror is black. We call them black mirrors. It's a black heart, which means it has no love to give you because it can't. That's why I cry for them. So the ultimate, if you will, result of that, okay, is that they return to fire, the source from which we all began, out of fire. Holy Spirit, holy fire, breathing fire, breathing fire. That's aloha. Flowers, the flower ley lines, flower ley lines. Pink, mama. Yeah, yeah, yeah.